So, welcome back to Gonga Lab. It's been a while since we published and had a time for news and all the researches were done. So today is the day that we can put some clips on the channel. So recently, in what's the hot stuff in 2022 is disc brake rubbing problems. It's happening in professional cycling, it's happening in amateur cycling, it's happening in every single individual rider who is buying a new bike. And we conduct severe testing with some new prototypes, the parts we designed, and as all of you already know, we have our own variable geometry pistons which are solving a lot of issues with that. But today I want to speak about the test we conduct. So it's been maybe 2 months ago when we decide to have a test rider, and the test was conducted by our team because we need more people, and the test was made this way. So first of all, we mount a brand new disc rotor on the carbon fiber frame, and then we measure the straightness of the rotor. So we found out we attached on the place where you have a caliper. Instead we place a measure gauge, and we measure the straightness during rotating the wheel. So we found out that the brand new one was deviation was from 0.15 until 0.20 millimeters. And this was the initial point, because this deviation cannot be contributed directly to the disc rotor itself, but it's more like tolerances of the hub, because it's the system consists of the bearings of the axle, and all the tolerances are contributing to deviation of straightness of the rotor. So then our interest was how much force is needed to apply on the left or right pedal with the rider's weight that it will get in contact with the braking pad. So what we did, we twist the brake pads inside the caliper in opposite directions. So the back plate was facing towards rotor. So we had metal to metal contact if it happens. So on each side, on one side of pad, we attached a wire which was attached to the back plate, and on the other side is disc. We apply another electrode and had a metal flexing contact sheet which was sliding on the rotor. So every time the disc would attach or make a contact with the brake, you could hear the beeping voice. It's creating electrical shortcut, as you can hear in here. And then we asked the rider, someone was holding the bicycle in front of the handlebar, and the rider was just pushing and leaning his weight on one and another side with his body. And in both directions there was not much more force needed or weight needed to apply to make a contact. It was very, very slight bend, and the frame is bending. It's twisting. It's like a bridge. Bridge, you have point A, and point B. And this is the front axle and this is the rear axle. So when you apply on this system the weight, it's trying to twist around its own axle. And this is exactly what happened with the bicycle. Carbon frames are very flexible. So, because you have the caliper attached to the frame, when you lean the bike, the frame and the caliper leans as well, but because it's also a twist moment, it's twisting. If you see the rotor, it's straight, but you kind of twist and roll over the rotor, the caliper, so it's rubbing instantly. So the same procedure we repeated if the rider was going into the corner on the straight circuit. At around 35 kilometers an hour, without braking, of course, he leaned the bike in the corner sharply, and he can already hear the contact of the rotor. So the next step was we install new brake pads in a normal position, not with the opposite, and we asked the rider to climb the mountain. On the top of the mountain we measure the temperature with a thermal element like this. We attach this on the disc and wait 5 minutes to get a steady reading of the temperature, as well as the caliper, so that we have initial temperature reading before and after the descending. So during descending, he already before he start descending, we give instructions to make as high as possible speed in the corner. So that means he came in the corner with the higher speed and trying to braking slightly to maintain the constant speed through the corner. So that means during cornering he was using the brakes. And he did it. After finish descending, we measure, after getting steady reading of the temperature, after cool down, we measure the straightness of the rotor again. So we found out that from the brand new initial deviation 0.15 until 0.25, the straightness was worsened, and we got the readings between 0.45 until 0.55, in some cases even nearly close to 0.6 millimeters, which is significant. Now, what was actually happening? In here we have a good presentation. We'll show you just in a second. So in here you can see, this is just schematic presentation. So this is the caliper, this is the disc rotor, this is the axle of the hub and the axle of the rotor, and this is the axle of the piston. So during cornering, what's happening? Because this is the case when you're still in steady state position, and this one shows you when you lean the bike. So the red one is the center of the system. When you lean the bike, this axle bends or lean in the way of the rotor. You can imagine. But because of your weight and all the forces that are working on the frame twists around the axle, this axle, where is attachment point of the if this is the point A and this is the point B, this is the axle. It's twisting around this axle. So you can see what happens. You kind of get triangular gaps on one and another side. Why is that? Because the rotor will not bend until something is pressed on him. So when you braking and extracting the pistons, the upper part attaches, get in touch with the disc faster than the lower one. So what it happens? It happens that when you're pressing, the caliper is trying to make it even or being in parallel with the disc. But because that doesn't happen, it's starting to bending. The disc rotor. So it's kind of this part in here trying to be twisted around in here, because this one is pressing in here and this one is pressing on the top, so you get a momentum. And this is what is causing this severe rubbing. And not only that, when you do this, the pistons trying to roll in this direction, the green arrow shows you, trying to roll inside the hole. If this is the hole of the pistons, is trying to roll around it and it's stuck. So now the case when you have, let's say, more than 50% or near 50% wear of the brake pads, the pistons are extracted even more. So the stuck can be guaranteed 100%. And when you have this system designed like this, first of all, you will get brake pads, and you can see even in mountain bikes, worn like in a shape like this. Normally they're not in straight, but if you combine these two together, you get a perfect square. And this is exactly what's happening in here. So based on the wear of the brake pads, you know that something's happening with the roll of your pistons inside. If you add to stuck pistons a problem of bend rotor every time you brake, you will definitely get a rubbing situation. Now, back in the days, you know that we are creating custom-made pistons, which basically enables the pistons to roll significant inside the hole, and it will not stuck. It's verified with the testing, but our piston does not solve the problem of bending the rotor, because the rotor leans with the bike, with the axle, rear axle hub and front axle, but the caliper, additionally to lean, have additional twisting, or let's say angle. We call it beta. This is alpha. So this beta is a problematic stuff. This beta cause rubbing and bending. So now the solution to this is we are designing special pivots. If you have the calipers, and this is, let's say, attachment point that consists of something like this. If we make it, it's still under prototyping testing, but nevertheless. So it allows, if this is attachment point with the screw, it allows movements. Let's say this beta. It allows elastic movements on the left to right, but on the opposite side, it does, in this direction, it doesn't allow any movement because it's a solid material. It's like you would have from the top this, if you cut it in half. This is a free space. You see this one in here, and this one is solid. So in this direction doesn't allow you any movement. Now this is still in prototyping version. We did conduct some testing in the lab, but we still need to put it on the bicycle. So now the conclusion of all this is why rubbing is happening. Rubbing is happening not because of the braking on the flats or on the straight. It starts to causing problems when you're leaning the bike, braking a little bit, wearing the brake pads in uneven shape. The calipers, the brake pistons are extracting in unparalleled way with the disc rotor, and they're trying to roll. When they're rolling, they can stuck inside a hole, so even these holes sometimes we measure they're damaged by the pistons. It is bending the rotor, so the altogether what the factories doesn't do when they're showing glowing disc rotor when they're braking. That test is nothing. It has nothing to do with the problem that is happening in real life. That's what they are doing is the live test of the brake expectancy. They're having straight attachment, nothing is moving in there. But in our case, our test shows the problem is twisting the frame around this axle and point A and point B. This is the root cause, which can be, as I said, reduced by this attachment point, which are flexible in one direction. So instead of the leader would be caliper, in our case the leader is the rotor and the caliper is following the angular way of the rotor. Another point that could be, let's say, the solution, that the piston, the caliper would be attached on the special fork like this. No, on this side. On special fork, which is part of the axle. If this is the attaching point, and in here, from the inside of the axle, which means when you lean the bike, the caliper will always follow the same angle as the rotor. No matter, regardless this twisting frame around the axle, because this would be attached to the axle. Of course, on the other side, you should supposed to have some special hook, or perhaps in here, which would prevent torsional movement when you're braking. So this would be attached to the rear, or leaning down on the rear triangle. Despite if this is moving, this doesn't have any effect on the but it would increase, it would be necessary to make it a reconstruction of the frame and the hubs. But this is something the manufacturers should supposed to consider. Our way is the cheapest, is this one. The second thought we have is with the special L-shaped fork, where the caliper would be attached and would be part of the axle inside, because there is still enough space. This should supposed to be maybe 3-4 millimeter thick in here, designed to have a little bit flexibility, and the problem would be solved. The brake pads wouldn't be worn in triangular shape. The pistons wouldn't stuck, especially if you use our pistons, which are very, very, very let's say highly maneuverable in this area, and they have variable geometry during heating process. So I hope you enjoy this. We'll be in touch soon, probably when we will have some more news. So hope you subscribe for more videos, and see you soon. Bye.